How are things?
Oh, well, Donna and I are hunkering down and social distancing ourselves. And so we're fine. We're healthy. We're safe.
Good,
We're not
good.
sick. So I make that very clear. Thank God for that.
Just for the audience, especially the broad audience who's new to you, we could maybe just spend a couple minutes talking about, your process pre-corona, your process,
Yeah.
and maybe you can tell me a little bit about how, just in general, like how you create your paintings or how you even arrived at the process for approaching figuration, sort of in the way that you do, which is absolutely beautiful and very unique. And I think a lot of people would love to know sort of how you arrived at this way of working.
Yeah, that's a very good question because considering what's happening in the world now, it's very much related to my process and in regards to the amount of empathy and vulnerability that I both feel and express because being empathetic and vulnerable happens to be two major pillars of my studio practice and the process in creating my work. Essentially, I I guess I may have stumbled upon this current approach in the way that I make my work, which is simply that I decided for the first time to just let go. I mean, I know it's like a cliche thing to say, but it really is true. I just thought, what would happen if I just sort of divorced myself from overthinking every step of any given process for making a work, you know? So that was a time when I always worked from photographs, you know, but that was a time when I really took a lot of time to think about the significance of the photograph and what it meant and how it related to another photograph and to try to ascertain some underlying meaning in the photographs and make sure that it sort of made sense and if it was rational and all this kind of stuff. And of course, a lot of work went into that. But there was this one work I made. Now, the work is called Charles. And that particular work, I will never forget it. I only have 5 hours to make that piece. So I didn't have time to overthink the underlying or underpinnings of the meaning in the photographs, you know. So I just picked photographs that resonated with me, you know. For example, I picked a photograph with a certain eye because I liked the way the eye looked. It just hit me in a certain kind of way.
Yeah.
And I didn't waste time to think, well, the dark brown means that it's something to do with dark brown people in the world, and I got to make sure that it's connected, blah, blah, blah. I just thought, I like this image. I like this photograph. It just resonates with me in a certain kind of way. I do that, and then the next thing that happened was I thought, well, I can't draw the entire face. I don't really have time to draw every inch of the face, you know. So I need to find a way to reduce the information and just focus on that which is absolutely needed and significant. So that means instead of drawing the forehead, forget the forehead. Just focus on the eyes. Don't even worry about the bridge of the nose. Just focus on the nostrils, you know. Don't worry about cheeks or chin. Just do the lips. You know, just really reducing everything. And in fact, even in rendering the lips, you render a part of the lips. You don't have to render all of them. You know what I mean? Like, just make a lot of gestural strokes or something to just make sure it's good, but it's not. It doesn't have to be like over the top or whatever the case is. And so, in order to make sure I stuck to that rule, I used construction paper, and I would isolate certain areas of the face, and within the zone of the isolation, I would draw the eyes, or within another zone of isolation by use of the construction paper, I would then draw like the nostril of the nose or a part of the mouth and this kind of thing. And once I removed the construction paper, what sat before me was this piece in a manner that I had never done before. In fact, I will never forget it because it felt like I didn't even make the work. I couldn't believe I made that work. And I was so moved by it and compelled by it. And more importantly, what really struck me was the work or the image I had made resembled my brother Charles. And I had not seen my brother Charles since I was 15 years old, due to my upbringing in Chicago and family abandonment and separation. And then that's when it dawned on me that I ought to make works about that which continues to impact me on emotional level and a psychological level. So in short, I thought I'm going to continue making works about the memories that I continue to have of my family, and my brothers and stuff like that. Yeah. And that's kind of what pushed me in that direction. But in addition, the means by which I create the work, that sort of chopped up, whimsical combination of shapes and forms coming together in this sort of incongruent way, but yet having this sense of harmony that underlines the work. That very approach also became part of the process of, making my works, because that approach is a reflection of this sense of separation and abandonment that I felt then and continue to feel today, and we are actually undergoing that ourselves now, right, with social distancing. So there's a lot of separation happening that we are enforcing upon ourselves, but we are doing that with the hope of sustaining our collective identity as a human race, and more specifically as a country in America. This is what we must do in order to hold on to our identity as a nation.
That's really poignant, and it's important because, you talked about how your work, these reductions, and there's a sense of urgency, and you're really just grasping at these core, raw elements, right, of your emotions, of people, of figures that have been part of your life in passing or in a longer form. You were talking about this collective kind of community identity and us coming together in a certain way, and it's really just whatever the core is of humanity and getting through some kind of hardship. Do you think that what's happening now is impacting your work differently?
Well, you know what? I tell you what. I think what's happening now in the world is, I don't think it's just happening on a different level. It's happening on an unprecedented level. This is historic. This is the type of thing that happens once every 100 years. This is a pandemic. It's a viral infection that has gotten completely out of control. And, as an artist, perhaps you can reason with your process in the studio, but you cannot reason with a virus. There's no negotiation with a virus. To go back to that piece, Charles, one thing that came up to the surface for me was, like I said about the memories of my brother, right? So then that kind of brought to the surface those ideas of being vulnerable and empathetic, So to make a work like that and to continue making other works similar to that in that process, I had to allow myself to just be vulnerable and to embrace my vulnerability and to be empathetic, to embrace my insecurities and my sadness and the loss and the pain, and really not try to hide it. I think the very embrace of it is what makes you strong, makes you realize your own humanity. I came back from Chicago because I just had my solo show at Ronald Hoffman Gallery, and I came back to New York. I started working in the studio. I was looking forward to getting back to work, and the world started to change. And for me, it really stopped me in my tracks, man. I was just like baffled. I couldn't. I couldn't make art. It's otherworldly.
Yeah.
To see everything just comes to a complete standstill. And I think it's important to do that because you have to absorb what's happening around you. Otherwise, at least for me, it would otherwise be kind of selfish. If you didn't do that, you have to allow yourself to feel the impact that this thing is having on our very humanity. We know that there are people who are dying from this, so you have to give yourself time to just take that in and sit in that, And it wasn't until like 2 days ago when I started getting back in the studio again, you know what I mean? Until I had to first take in what was happening in my world, in life, my community, my neighbors. And
are you able to find any inspiration? Maybe are you listening to anything, reading anything, watching anything that's kind of keeping you grounded or inspired?
Well, I mean, I've always been a very optimistic and positive guy, so I'm not like depressed or anything or, like broken. But I've been doing a lot of reading of this author from the middle, like the 1850s. I think his name is Thoreau. Last name is Thoreau.
Oh,
and
Henry David Thoreau?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the one. I found that literature to be quite inspiring, because this is a guy whose work was based on human rights, equality.
Mm-hmm.
He was a very advocate of freedom and anti-slavery, and he was big into nature. He wrote a lot of literature on the environment and nature and living a full life. For him it was like, look, if life has all great things to offer, I want to live it to the fullest. But if life turns out to be mean, then I want to live that out to its fullest as well.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, that is very I found it to be very inspiring. Like it was, to me, it's like, man, okay, this guy, he's from like the middle 1800s and already had it together. He was willing to go through the fire, to be free and also fight for the freedoms of other people. So clearly he was very empathetic, I mean, this was a guy who refused to pay taxes because he felt like paying taxes was supporting a government that enshrined the institution of slavery in its constitution.
Yeah.
And, I mean, and it was arrested on account of that. He was a guy who was willing to make all kinds of sacrifices and to stand firm on his beliefs and values. And I found that to be very inspiring, and that played a big part in me, like, gearing up to get back into the studio myself,
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm making works about the coronavirus pandemic,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but I am continuing my practice as an artist.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because, and I'll tell you something, when I am making my work, it's like the world disappears. But that has always been the case. But art practice and making art does provide like this immovable respite from everything else that's going on. It gives me a sense of a relief, a liberation from it all, to remove the shackles of our current existence in a way, And it wasn't until I started getting back into the studio when I realized that I do, in fact, possess that kind of power. And I'm grateful for that. Like, my art can create for me a portal through which I can enter and be in a completely different space.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful for that.
No, that's the best gift of art. And I think that's what's so important as we recover physically and economically from this epidemic. I hope, and with artists like you, that we can really restore the creative market and opportunities and education for people to know that this is a way for us to sort of handle and resolve a lot of our inner struggles is through art and literature.
Normally when I'm in the studio, every day before I start working, I have this mantra that I say to myself, and it's simply that I always say to myself, now, Quinn, remember, you can create whatever you want to create. And so when I create, I really, well, first of all, when I create, I'm always trying to be like present, to be in a complete state of just being,
Yeah.
where all forms of self-interpretation and social belief systems are abandoned, So, in that space, and of course, the more I work, every hour passes by, I go deeper and deeper into that place of being present,
Mhm.
of just being, where it gets to a point where you're no longer making art, you're just being.
Yeah.
It's not anything. You're not describing it. You're just being, and then you're just trusting the process, and you get to places in the work where at least for me, I get to points in the work where I'm not even sure what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where I'm going, but I'm okay with that. It's fine. I just trust and believe that my collaboration with my materials are going to help guide me to where I need to be. So the roadmap is created by the fuel from my heart and my soul and my desire, and how it makes me feel good, and the high that I get from creating. You know what I mean? It's like a drug, and you just creating, and you just being. With this situation that we're in right now, when I started 2 days ago in the studio, now I feel like my thinking is on even like a higher level now, where it's like, man, just really be free. Just really let go. Because you know how this shit's going to end anyway. So but the reality is we ought to be like this anyway.
Yeah.
And it should not take a pandemic to get you to that place. So I'm in that space, in that headspace now, man. And it really feels good. You're just letting go, man.
Let go.
Fuck it.
I can't wait until the museum opens again, because I love your work, and I can't wait to see it on the walls in the museum, and for other people to see it. And you joining the Broad Collection was a major highlight for the museum, and your experience coming out to LA and having this big reception and being part of this community here. How do you feel about that? I mean, is LA a place?
Oh man, let me tell you something. I love LA, man. I mean, the embrace that I get from the art community in LA, and everybody's there, and just the friendships and the connection with people, and hearing and seeing the response to my work, and also seeing other artists' works as well, and just seeing like that sort of energy is wow. I mean, what a blessing, man, and a very fortunate position to enjoy and be in.
I love that. Well, we can't wait to see what's next from you and your work, especially.